this is Kimberlea, and Yoga Snack is our bite-sized podcast where Robbie and I serve up nourishing discussions on yoga, astrology, nourishment, and mindset.
We mix wisdom with personal experiences to serve up quick, insightful conversations that nourish your practice and add flavor to your daily life.
Ready for a quick bite of wisdom? Let's dig in.
Welcome to this week's episode of Yoga Snack. This week we're going to talk about the fifth chakra, the throat chakra.
It's a good one. So this is Vishuddha chakra, and it's located in the throat. It also extends up to our jaw and also our ears and for hearing. Let's see, the color is sky blue. It's like turquoise, big, bright blue Colorado sky. And it translates to purified. And this is all about vibration and resonance. So, if we're able to speak our truth, and we're also able to allow other people to speak their truth in our presence, and then we also start to cultivate the ability to discern and hear truth, this is when we start to move up into this higher chakra. And the element for this one is space. And it is the most ethereal and hard to conceptualize of all of the elements. So we are very much moving into this more ethereal spiritual realm. And the other thing I like to bring into the perspective of all of this is it's literally the bridge between the heart and the mind. That we have this deep intelligence. If you listen to the last week's episode, we talked a lot about the intelligence of the mind. There's even intelligence in the heart, and how there's neurons in the heart. And then obviously we have this intelligent brain, and our mind is always, referenced as being up in our head. But the space between those two is that fifth chakra. And if it's inhibited or there's not clarity, then there's like static in between those two energy centers. And, I think some physical things we all know about, like, getting a raspy voice. If you ever had laryngitis and you've tried to communicate, there's so much more effort and energy around trying to, get across what it is that you need, and then you don't have your voice. And yeah, so this is a really, I think in my life, it's been really an important place that I've had to work on a lot. We can use our voice to inspire, to bring people together. We've all sang our hearts out, so we know that vibration and resonance here matters. But I also, I came from a house that we were yellers, and, I used to yell, my kids, and there's this big intimidating energy that actually is destructive, and it breaks things apart instead of brings them together. And this chakra is very much about using our voice as a tool to inspire and to connect and to unify instead of to separate. There's a lot of layers to it. One of the really powerful things that I've experienced when I do teacher trainings is I get to see people. It's like public speaking, right? Like you have to stand in front of these people and take what's inside of you and help them understand what you mean by the vibration that's coming out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. So it's like we learn to take what's inside and bring it outside of us, so that then we can work on that, and that there can be a way to connect with each other. So yeah, I think that this is an area that is a fear place for a lot of people, because public speaking is a very common fear. And even singing in public, I had an experience, my first kirtan I went to. I didn't actually go to a kirtan. I went to a yoga class mm-hmm. and we had a surprise kirtan. So for those of you that don't know what a kirtan is, it is this incredible, I can say this now, at the time I was mortified, mm-hmm. but you sing and you chant, and there's normally drums and instruments, and it's this really powerful repetition of mantra along with these accompanying instruments and these layers of vocals on top of it, and you're participating, and it's just like this explosion of vibration, and it changes, the feeling of the energy in the room. But so really quickly, the story was I went to this workshop yoga class. I was really excited to go. It's all about Hanuman. And I was very, very early in my training. I maybe had only been teaching for maybe a year, if that. And so I went to this workshop, and at the end, the teacher was like, "I've got a surprise for you." And she brought in this kirtan group. And now I have such a different opinion of it, but I'm going to give you the experience of my previous self having this. They walked in. They were like bunch of Hare Krishna, like ponytail, like this like bunch of like characters that I'm just like, what on earth is happening? And I literally like panicked because I'm sitting there with all these people that I don't really know. We just took a workshop together, and I'm supposed to sing out loud with these people, the stuff that I didn't know about. And so anyways, the lady who explains everything, though, she did such an amazing job. Maybe she picked up on the terror of my energy, because everybody else was all super excited and I was like mortified. Let me frame this a little bit. I didn't have a community when I came back from training because I went to India, and then I lived in a rural town in Colorado. So I was very isolated as far as community and what I got to experience when I got home. So even though I had this crazy experience in India, I still came home to a very small, conservative, rural community to teach yoga in. And so I'm like transported, and northern Colorado was where this workshop was. And so she explained that this is just to bring our voices together. And she's, we have all these chants, and it's in Sanskrit, and I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on. And she's like, basically we're just like, yay, God, like woohoo, and we get on with our lives. So don't worry about the performance aspect of it. It's really about leaning in and experiencing the vibration in the room. And so we get started, and I'm just like I'm kind of doing like this. I'm like, oh, like I'm just like, oh, this is so painful, and then eventually what happened is like, everybody else in the room, and it probably is just this like accumulation of vibration, like you end up starting to resonate, and that vibration starts to move in and through you, and I end up participating with it and really having a good time. And it's one of my favorite things that I get to go do every now and again is go to a kirtan. I love to chant at the end of class. Sometimes I'll offer up a chant and stuff like that, but that was not a reality. I would have never like sang or chanted in front of other people. And so I think that as I kind of progress on my path and I start to clear up and clarify what my voice is actually used for, that's shifted in my life. I have people that are like, oh, your voice is so calming. I've had people tell me that, oh, you should be on the radio, and and I appreciate those compliments, but my voice has probably changed, but also it's a direct relationship to my nervous system, and to be able to stay regulated, to be, more thoughtful around the words that I choose, and the fact that I have to, for a living, bring people into their bodies. I've really prioritized language and words and description, so that people can go inside their body and have a really rich experience, an embodied experience when they're doing asana. So we did teacher training together. You did teacher training with me. What did you think about like when you had to start teaching the poses?
Oh, it was like a big source of anxiety during the process. Haven't been a speaker, traditionally in my life. So, starting into teacher training, and when I first started teacher training, I didn't really want to teach. I was like, I think this is more for me. But then through repetition and just sort of like, I guess, coming into more confidence through the program, I started to see myself as being able to do that. And for me, informing people is my biggest challenge, using my communication skills, but also it's my way forward in life. Like, it's everything I do, whether it be my vocation or relationship, everything. It's all, what words come out of your mouth, and how well can you articulate your point, to where the other person understands your perspective.
And when we're good communicators, it does bridge, right? Like, again, bridging heart and mind, and like we're creating a bridge between what's inside of us. And it's so mysterious. Like, what literally is in there? Who knows? Right? We know there's blood and guts and stuff like that, but there's all of this mysterious stuff. Like, we're all having thoughts, but we can't hold them out in front of them and show people. But I could, like, remember Indiana Jones when they like pulled the heart out of the chest?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you could, like, I could show you my heart, like the organ of my heart, but the emotions that are being derived from my spiritual heart, I can't bring you into that experience and show you in a tangible way. And that's why this very ethereal place then is something that demands work, I think, and observation. My long-term relationship that I'm not in anymore, that was one of the complaints. It's like, he would say, I'm not a good communicator. And I'm like, but communication is a skill. Just like you can pick up a skill, it requires work. And for some, it requires more work than others. And, the thing that I remember coming into my yoga practice that was so profound was the tightness that I used to carry in my jaw and my mouth. And I used to walk around with my jaw just clenched all the time. And I used to grit my teeth. I used to grind my teeth at night. And that probably, not probably, it is a direct relationship to my inability to speak my truth. And I would clamp down, I'd hold it in. And then when I couldn't hold it in anymore, it came out like wildfire, right? And instead of it being this like slow burn, because for those of you that remember, I'm a fire sign, but it's like not this like slow burn of like, let's have a warm conversation and roast s'mores. It was like, this, where it just like burnt everything down in its path. And, that's not, at the end of the day, that's not how we resolve things. That's actually how we wound people, and instead of bridging the gap. And so I think as I started to notice that inhibition in my jaw and my face and those muscles that were just clamped down, and it's like learning to soften our mouth. And one of the things I learned maybe a few years into teaching is that we're not supposed to touch our top and bottom set of teeth together unless we're eating. And I was walking around with my mouth like jammed shut all the time, like clamped down and like, and to even be able to put that space, right? Remember, this chakra is space.
Right.
To put that space between the top and bottom set of teeth, that was revolutionary. That was life-changing in the amount of tension that was being held here. And I also think like when we grit and grind our teeth together and create that tension, I feel it build up like in my head. It's like that overthinking and that resentment and those like toxic thoughts that start to come in and they just build and I hold them there and I just get madder and I, like it's like this, all of this like, and then it just explodes. And as a teacher trainer, what I really love to see is when people step into their authentic voice, because a lot of times I'll go to yoga classes and I don't go to very many, I do most of my practicing at home and online, but there's like the yoga performance voice. And no shame to anyone, right? Like we do have to step into the role of the teacher when we come onto our mats, but there's sort of this like disconnected, like they're like channeling somebody on that they saw on YouTube or something,
Yes.
instead of it like being your real voice. And I had this experience where I went to an event. So my yoga students, they're private clients. They wanted to go do this yoga event, and it was down in Denver, and it was during an art show, and there was a yoga teacher who was, teaching yoga during this art exhibit. It was really a beautiful exhibit, but she had sort of that performative voice, and I don't, I'm not there to critique anyone. I'm there to take yoga, but it was just something I noted, and, and I can move past that and get on with my life. But my students were asking me like, what do you think of the yoga teacher? And I'm like, ooh, guys, I don't do that. Like, I'm not here to criticize her. But I was in the middle of teacher training, and I said, well, I will say one thing though. I was like, with my teacher trainees, when I'm working with them, my hope is that they leave with a clear sense of their authentic voice. And it's not just to be able to teach yoga. It's like when you learn how to describe something and to take something that's deep inside of you, but you like intellectually know it in your head, but you have to bring someone else along with you. That's communication skills. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if you're teaching somebody to put Warrior 2 in their body on their mat, or you're trying to resolve a work conflict or come up with a creative solution, or there's turmoil inside of your relationship, right? And there's this need to be heard and to communicate, but to be able to do so in an effective manner, mm-hmm. so that we're resolving things. We're not just like beating each other up with words. And I was good at beating people up with words too. Like, I'll take some accountability there, like that fire, right? Like that. Mm-hmm. And I could intimidate, and I don't want to intimidate. I want to inspire people, and I want to find conflict resolution, and I want to work on repairing things, and not making things worse. But it's important to be able to articulate boundaries. What do you think the difference between nice and kind is?
I think nice is giving people what they want to hear, and kind is speaking the authentic truth. Mm-hmm. Not like I feel like our the book that we studied from in TT, the Yamas and Niyamas, mm-hmm. she talks about not using the truth to mow people down.
Right.
And I think that's a big one, because once we start to like practice yoga and we come into our power and mm-hmm. start to feel our authentic power, I think some people get hung up on like this notion of like speaking our truth.
Right.
And a lot of times that speaking of the truth cannot come off the way you want it to. It comes.
Do you remember the first yama?
Ahimsa.
Yeah. So like non-harming is mentioned first purposefully, right? And then mm-hmm. truth is second. Satya is truth second. Yeah. And I love that you remember that, because it's like it's such a fine walk that we have to do, because probably we're not going to get it right when we finally open up our mouth and start to say things, right? And that's what I loved about teacher training. Because I'm like, if you're going to get it wrong here. Like, let's work it out. Let's give you room to like kind of not be able to, get it right, fumble around, mull over your words, pick new words, wish you would have used different words, or, like whatever. Mm-hmm. And where in your life do you get to practice speaking like that, and that's what I think there's such a huge value in going through self-development processes, because like as a yoga student, it's like if we've practiced a long time, we're really familiar with maybe like Warrior 2, right? And in our head, we know how to get to Warrior 2. And you probably, especially if you train with me, like you've got all these cues running around in your head. But to take that and to have somebody else do it with your words and your guidance and your direction is an entirely different skill set. And it is a skill set. And if we're not practicing how to communicate, we're not getting any better at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, for all of us to remember, like that practicing, even practicing, setting boundaries with people. That's really scary. Going back to that, like, nice, right? Just be nice, right? Just be nice, and let's not ruffle anyone's feathers. And so this is also that place of discernment. And it's like, there are times when things need to be said.
Yeah.
And there has been, and we had that experience, like, when we were setting up for a class together, and the place that we were at, like, somebody else was there. And, when I had that confrontation a little bit, I remember I'm like, I am not taking this sitting down. I stood up because I'm like, you need to hear me, because he was standing up too. But it does take a willingness, though, right? To not only, like, just because you're speaking your truth doesn't mean people are going to receive your truth.
Yes, there's that.
Right. And it's like, so it's this funny, like, thing, like, we can't get attached to being validated either.
Oh, yeah.
But it is important for us to take what's inside and bring it outside often. And if we're repressing that, or the other part of it is if we are just say whatever's on our mind and there's no discernment, that's also out of balance.
Yeah.
Right? It's both. It's
Right.
both.
Yeah. You become like a shock jock in a way, like you're just like saying things for shock value, or
exactly. And gosh, isn't that in this current climate, like, it's like, what's going to grab your attention?
Right.
And I think that it requires us, as we're, if you're on the path of yoga, that there is some consideration around the value of vibration and resonance. Everything in the universe is vibrating. And when there is resonance between things, there's something that magic that happens. I always think back to the Beach Boys song, good vibrations. I don't like that it puts us in the paradigm of, like, good and bad.
Sure.
But I think that there are things that are higher vibrating than others. And if we're always going to take that lower vibrating, like, survival mode, fear, way of being in the world, that has a different attraction to what you're going to attract in your life, and what's going to surround you, and how you see the world and live in the world. And so as we move up the chakra system, there's sort of this lighter, higher vibration, and it's even reflected in the color scheme, because low is the slowest vibrating color, and that's the first chakra. And as we move up, they're a little bit higher and lighter. And it's not like a hierarchy. We need all of them, in balanced measure. But we do start to understand, like, that elevation of this gift of our voice and communication, what that can actually do, and how it is the ability to express our deep self and our individual self. This chakra is related to the second chakra too. One day we'll go deeper into that, but second chakra is also about expression. And I think that's more like physical expression and creativity and like artistic expression. And this is more about our inner truth expression, that more subtle realm of who we actually are and what vibes with us. And the thing is part of this, people start to, like, if they're not real careful, that spiritual bypassing comes in, because it's like good vibes only, man.
Right.
And we get confused about what it's actually asking us to do. And this is very much about discernment, because we can, like, just skip over places where we need to really give room and space for hard, heavy things that happen to people, instead of just breezing by. So I think that discernment piece of it is so interesting. And have you ever like sang your heart out and like felt better?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you have
It's
a
like,
song?
no, because it's so like, whatever the thing is.
According to your mood.
Right. Yeah. But definitely like, it's like, that's like my go-to for healing is to throw on some nice music and just, especially if I'm in the car.
God, yeah, that's my favorite. Like just to belt it out in the car.
Yeah.
I like to pretend I sound like Whitney Houston, which I don't.
The resonance of inside the car.
It's, who knows how loud I'm keeping it. I do sound like Whitney Houston. I'm deluding myself. But there's, some of her, like just those big, powerful songs that you just like can belt out and somehow your heart feels lighter after that. And I think it's because our heart gets to like bring up that vibration up through the throat, and that there's sort of this like, I don't know, reconciliation that happens between the heart and the mind when we can just like sing our hearts out, and allow that to transform us, because music shifts you. It shifts me, and music's always been a way that's connected me to my emotions more, because that's been my work in this lifetime, is to become a more intelligent feeling person. But music and that vibration has that, and it doesn't even have to have words. Like there's like when I worked in the dance, realm, and we would pick out music for choreography or something, I had to feel it in my body to be able to create something around that dance, or for the kids and stuff. If I couldn't feel it, I was just like, I don't know what to do with this, but I don't use music when I teach yoga. That's weird for some people, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. I used to play music. I've only been teaching, a short time, but when I first started, I was like, oh yeah, I love music. I'm gonna teach with music.
I love music too.
But I've certainly come around to the aspect of like, okay, that we're here to become single point of focus. And it's hard for me as a teacher to get into a space where I can even like think of what to say sometimes because of the music. So it's something I've let fall away. And I think I've seen it reflected like final Shavasana. I feel like the students are more peaceful, like less restless if there's not music going on. And even if it's something gentle, like I feel like there's more stillness and like they're able to fully get into what we're doing there. But I do feel like it's made me rely more on my voice. So that music is not there. So I'm, filling the space or not.
Yeah. And it's intentional, right? And then there are pauses.
Yeah.
And there is space.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm such a chatterer when I teach, and so it's really been this thing lately too, where I'm like, I need to give more space sometimes in class, especially depending on what I'm teaching, because I tend to like, I just like, I'm like a machine gun with cues, like, it's just like going off. But what's funny is like when I teach restorative yoga, I have to downregulate my nervous system in such a way, because I'm coming into it with a different intention. Like if I'm going to teach a vinyasa class and it's a flow class and it's in the middle of the day and, people are going to, there is a vibration that I need to hold and maintain in that class, in the way that my words come out, the words that I choose, how many spaces I give between, and this isn't all like a formula. This is something that over time I can just like sense and feel into now. And I think there's lots of ways to teach yoga. I don't, so I want to be really clear about that. But when I get to teach restorative yoga, it's one of my favorite things to do. I have to really like bring that intensity that I can bring to like a vinyasa class, I have to bring it way down. And I can do that though, right? Like I can dial it up, I can take it down. I have a range now inside of my verbal skills, and even my cues are different, how quickly I give them, how much space is between that. And because I get to practice that all the time, what I've found is that when I'm communicating, whether it's somebody on the phone, somebody I know, somebody I don't know, that that I've developed a skillfulness around my words and the choice of my words to try to steer a conversation in a certain way, especially if there needs to be a resolution to this problem, or there's a situation. And I will stop people and, when they've misunderstood me now, and I will say, that's not what I said, or I'll ask them, can you repeat to me what you think I said? Because I don't know that we're, and it's not this right, wrong paradigm anymore. It's like, let me say this a different way. And that's another thing that I do now. I'm like, can you say that a different way for me? Because the way you explain it, I didn't understand. And then it gives people a new opportunity to kind of come into it from a different way, without there being like this like tug of war and this right and wrong. Because I used to use a lot of my words to be a right fighter. Because I thought being right was the same as being happy. And did you know that's not true?
I've heard. I might be still learning that lesson.
Yeah. I don't remember who it was. They're like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I was like, oh,
that's a great question.
What the? Don't ask me that question. I don't want to answer it. I was like, ew. But yeah, I think that's something really interesting. The other thing that's really powerful for this chakra and to work with chakra is mantra. Because again, it's this bridge between heart and mind. And I don't know, I think everybody has probably thought loops and things that they get hung up on, or you're having like the conversation you should have had with that person in your head after you walk away, or you are preparing for this conversation that you're not sure how it's, and it's not that we can't prepare ourselves, but there is sort of this like intensity and neuroses that happens around thought loops, and especially in my head. So if you're like me, mantra can help you out. And even just like English words are fine. One of the ones that I use a lot is you're okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Like if something's not going well, I had some calamity last week with an online class, and my mantra to myself was like, it's okay. It's okay. You're good under crunch. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You're good under crunch. And I had to, instead of like freaking out and wondering, all this other stuff, I was just able to kind of like move things along. And that mantra, my ability to switch my mind into that place of one pointed focus when I need to, is really, really powerful, because otherwise my mind used to just beat the crap out of me when things didn't go well, or I didn't know how things were going to end up. And I think a lot of us are like that. But Sanskrit mantras can also be really powerful. And what's wonderful about it is like you don't even have to know what they mean. And sometimes that's even better, because then your mind isn't trying to make meaning out of it necessarily. It's just this vibration that you're bringing in that's like shaking your mind into a different like way of hearing and being, and that the vibration of the mind then can shift really profoundly. So do you know what the sound for this chakra is? Do you remember?
Hum.
H-A-M, hum. So I was like, fancy ham. Hum.
That's incredible. Oh, wow.
Fancy ham. Hum. So there's our snack food.
Get yourself some hum.
So a ham and cheese sandwich saves the day. And so the sound of the breath is also said, and this is just one particular lineage, but it's said to be so hum. And that is a sacred ancient mantra that means I am. So every time we're breathing in, if the sound of the breath, our inhale is so. Do that really quick. Inhale, so. Just kind of hear that sound at the back of your throat. And when you exhale, hear the breath come out and it's hum. And you can kind of feel that vibration in your throat and that warmth maybe. And to be able to come into that mantra, it's such a beautiful meditation. You can, set a timer and you can just meditate on the breath and hear the inhale so and the exhale hum. But what that mantra means, I am, every time you're breathing, you are affirming I am, and whether you're paying attention to it or not. And I think that's a really interesting thing. Like every breath you take, you're saying, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. And then, because we're such a complex, magical creature, we have all these thoughts that have vibrations that are running around while we're breathing, that are looping inside and attaching themselves to that mantra. So what are you then? Like, what are your thoughts? And so if every breath you're taking, you're saying, I am, and on the end of it, you're attaching something like, I am stupid. I am ugly. I am not enough. I am not good enough. I'm not happy enough. I'm not, wealthy enough. I'm not, like there's so many things that when we start to pay attention to the vibration of what our thoughts are, it's attaching itself to every breath you take, and it's affirming that inside of you. That's powerful, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to start to unpack what your thoughts are claiming you to be, maybe that's a place where we can start to see how yoga can help us shift, but we have to bring awareness to it first, So I think that's what I want to leave people with today is that Soham mantra, and allowing that to be a contemplation. Like every breath you take, what are you affirming? I am, I am, I am, I am what? And to be able to shift that and have mantras or affirmations that you can come to, I think are really important in a way that it can reframe our mind, it can reframe our life, that we can start to bring in that more authentic vibration so we can express ourselves authentically, and to allow the world to really see us, hear us. But the other thing it does, I think it helps us hear truth and listen for truth too. It's not just about us running our mouth off all the time. It's our ability to hear truth and discern what's pure, what's impure, and what's resonating and what's true and real. So for those of you at home, take 5 minutes. So hum. Just stay with your breath. You don't have to effort the breath. You can, if you like the Ujjayi breath, you can use that. But it's a really beautiful reset. And during the process, what will probably happen is you'll lose the mantra and you'll just start kind of ruminating in your thoughts. I still do that after all these years. But you just use it in a non-judgmental way. You're like, oh, I did it again. And you just bring it back and you're like, inhale, so, exhale, hum. Inhale, so, exhale, hum. It's a really powerful, simple, but profound practice. So beautiful. What else? Good. Yes. Anything? Is that our episode? I think we've covered a lot. We keep extending our episodes into a little bit, almost meals instead of snacks. So thank you guys at home for staying with us. I think we still really want to hear what you want to know more about. And we've had fun with this series. We'll keep going and getting through the chakras, and let us know what else you want. And there's lots of ways to access my teachings. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Insight Timer, the app. And Robbie and I both have live classes in Colorado. And yeah, we just want to stay connected with you. And I'd love to hear your truth, your voice. If you tried the mantra, let me know how that went, and have the best week, you guys. Thank you so much, and
See you
see you
next
next
time.
time.